Most people believe the difference between someone who achieves a lot in a day and someone who constantly runs out of time is discipline, raw effort, or better planning tools. That belief is wrong. The real difference lies in something invisible, something that happens in the gaps of your day, not in the hours you block on a calendar. The highest performers on the planet do not simply work harder or even smarter in the traditional sense. They have mastered the ability to catch and exploit microtriggers, those tiny fleeting windows when your brain flips into peak readiness. Miss those moments and you waste the most powerful mental resource you have. Catch them and you compress hours of progress into minutes. That is what this protocol is about. It is the code that allows you to seize time instead of letting it slip away. Think of your brain like a performance engine. Most people let it idle. They press the gas at random, stall when distractions come, and burn energy inefficiently. But hidden inside this engine are turbo switches. A microtrigger is like that turbo button. It is a short period, often only a few minutes, when your neurochemistry aligns perfectly for output. Dopamine, norepinephrine, and acetylcholine sync. Your focus sharpens, and your body is primed for execution. These windows are not constant. They appear, peak, and disappear quickly. Average people never notice them because they are busy reacting. High achievers are trained to detect them and act instantly. That is why they achieve more with less time. The first step of the protocol is recognition. Your brain sends physical signals when a microtrigger is happening. These signals are subtle, but once you know what to look for, they are impossible to miss. The most common ones are a sudden spike of curiosity, a spontaneous urge to start something, or a moment when your thoughts feel unusually clear. Instead of brushing these off, you need to interpret them as green lights. For example, you are scrolling through your phone and a sudden thought about a project flashes in. Most people ignore it. You capture it. You stop the scroll, open your workspace, and channel that energy. That moment, if seized, is worth more than an hour of forcing yourself into focus later. Now let us translate recognition into an actionable code. Whenever you feel a sudden pull toward a task, you label it as a trigger moment. The action is immediate engagement. Do not delay, do not negotiate. Your brain chemistry is giving you an access code, and the window will close quickly if you hesitate. The command is simple. When clarity strikes, move. Even if you only give it 2 minutes, that activation primes your system for deeper focus. You are training your brain to associate trigger detection with instant action. Over time, this becomes automatic, and the frequency of these windows increases. Step 2 of the protocol is amplification. A trigger is valuable, but you can extend it by setting the right conditions. Think of it like catching a wave. Once you are on it, you can ride it longer by aligning your body and momentum. For your brain, this alignment means clearing friction. The fastest way is to apply a frictionless start. This is a tactical maneuver where you reduce the entry point of the task to the smallest possible action. Instead of saying you will write a full report, you tell yourself you will just open the file and type 1 sentence. Instead of promising to exercise for an hour, you put on your shoes and step outside. Why does this work? Because your brain, once engaged, builds momentum. Starting tiny allows the trigger to grow instead of collapse under the weight of expectation. The third step is environmental leverage. Microtriggers are amplified or destroyed by your surroundings. Bright screens, constant noise, and cluttered desks drain them instantly. On the other hand, controlled cues lock them in. A practical system is to create microenvironments. For example, have a single physical spot or even a specific chair that you only use for deep execution. The moment you sit there during a trigger, your brain associates the environment with output and doubles down on focus. Neuroscience calls this context-dependent memory, but in practice it is simply a shortcut. Your environment becomes a silent ally. The rule is clear. Protect your trigger space and use it only when you want maximum efficiency. The fourth step is chaining triggers into a flow cycle. One microtrigger can feel small, but linked together they create unstoppable momentum. The strategy here is simple. After writing the first trigger, pause briefly, then set a deliberate cue for the next. For example, if you used a trigger to write half a page, you pause, take 1 deep breath, then immediately set a tiny next action like writing the first word of the next sentence. That small act becomes the seed for the next trigger. Think of it as lighting a fuse. Each microtrigger ignites the next one, creating a chain reaction. This is how some people look like machines of productivity. They are not in constant motivation. They are stacking microbursts until they lock into flow. Let us go deeper into the science. Your brain's readiness cycles are influenced by ultradian rhythms, which are natural 90-minute waves of energy and recovery. Within those larger cycles, microtriggers are like mini spikes. They are bursts of dopamine signaling that tell your body, this is the moment to move. Ignore them and your brain suppresses future signals. Respond to them and your brain releases more, reinforcing the pattern. You are literally training your neurochemistry. Think of it like a feedback loop. Detection leads to action. Action leads to reinforcement. Reinforcement makes detection easier. This is how the top 1% multiply their effective time without adding hours. Now let us translate all this into a protocol you can install today. The Trigger Economy protocol has 4 commands. Detect the spark, act instantly, expand with frictionless starts, and chain into flow. Detect, act, expand, chain. This sequence is the code. When you run it consistently, your day stops being a blur of random activity. It becomes a controlled system where you compress output into precise bursts. Instead of forcing focus for 3 wasted hours, you ride 4 or 5 10-minute windows that produce the same or greater result. But here is the reality. Most people will hear this and nod, then never apply it. Why? Because they have conditioned themselves to ignore their own brain signals. They rely on schedules and apps while missing the raw biological triggers that matter most. Do not make that mistake. The difference between a scattered amateur and a precision operator is that the operator has trained their detection and built their arsenal of responses. To strengthen detection, you need a drill. For the next 3 days, your mission is to run a microtrigger log. Every time you feel a sudden flash of clarity or a spike of curiosity, you write it down. Even if you do not act on it, you capture the pattern. After 3 days, you will see a map of when your brain is most ready. Some people spike in the morning, some in the afternoon, but everyone has a rhythm. Once you know your rhythm, you are not guessing anymore. You can anticipate windows and be ready to pounce. This drill is the training ground for the protocol, and once you have the map, you deploy. Tomorrow, when that flash hits, you do not negotiate, you do not delay. You act. You anchor it to a small action, expand it with frictionless starts, and chain it into a cycle. That is how you rewrite your relationship with time. You stop asking, how do I get more hours? And start asking, how do I extract more value from the minutes I already have? That is the shift that separates overworked strugglers from calm executors who look like they bend time to their will. In the second half of this breakdown, we will push the protocol even further. You will learn how to weaponize recovery to generate more triggers, how to eliminate false signals that drain you, and how to automate your system so it runs without effort. But the foundation is this. Microtriggers are real, they are powerful, and they are AVA. Now let us sharpen the system further. Once you know how to detect, act, expand, and chain, the next layer is energy management. Microtriggers are powerful, but they depend on the quality of your internal fuel. If you are chronically exhausted, stressed, or overstimulated, you will miss them or mistake false signals for real ones. This is where recovery becomes a weapon. Most people treat recovery as something passive, like collapsing on the couch or scrolling a feed. High performers treat recovery as an active protocol. They use deliberate resets that recharge the nervous system and make microtriggers more frequent and more reliable. One of the fastest resets is controlled breathing. For example, 1 deep inhale followed by a slightly longer exhale repeated 3 times. This downregulates stress hormones and clears cognitive clutter. It takes less than a minute and can reopen the door for the next trigger. Another reset is physical movement. A 2-minute walk or even standing up and shaking out your muscles signals the body to reset. These small resets amplify your capacity to ride the next wave of readiness. Next is the elimination of false triggers. Your brain is wired to chase novelty, but not every spike of energy is a productive trigger. Notifications, random conversations, and distractions can mimic microtriggers. They feel urgent, but they pull you away from what matters. The rule is simple. Not every spark deserves your attention. You need a filter. The filter is based on alignment. Whenever a spark appears, you quickly ask, is this linked to my current priority? If the answer is no, you discard it. This prevents you from wasting your limited focus currency on low-value tasks. Real triggers accelerate progress on meaningful goals. False triggers scatter your power into nothing. High achievers are ruthless about this distinction. That is why they achieve disproportionate results. They do not let dopamine be hijacked by meaningless noise. Now let us talk about automation. The ultimate goal is not to manually detect and act forever. The goal is to train your system until it runs by itself. This is the same principle as installing new software. At first, you consciously run the program. Over time, it becomes the default. You are reprogramming your brain to automatically spot, capture, and act on microtriggers. One way to accelerate this automation is through ritual anchoring. You pair a consistent ritual with trigger detection until the two become inseparable. For example, you might train yourself so that every time you sip your morning coffee, you scan for a trigger. Every time you finish a meeting, you scan for a trigger. Soon, the ritual itself becomes a launchpad, and your brain starts firing readiness signals on schedule. This is not magic, it is neuroplasticity in action. You are shaping your brain's wiring to favor high-efficiency windows. Another layer is stacking domains. Microtriggers are not only for work. They exist in fitness, learning, creativity, and decision-making. If you are training in the gym, a sudden urge to lift is a trigger. If you are reading and curiosity spikes, that is a trigger. If you are in conversation and clarity hits, that is a trigger. You can build entire systems of leverage by stacking triggers across domains. The principle is identical: detect, act, expand, chain. By applying the same code everywhere, you multiply your results across life, not just work. This is why top performers seem balanced yet hyper-productive. They do not separate their brain's operating system into silos. They run the same efficiency code everywhere. The protocol also requires sharpening your sense of timing. Triggers are not random. They appear most often when your nervous system has just shifted state. After sleep, after movement, after novelty, after recovery. That is why so many creative breakthroughs happen in the shower or on a walk. These are state shifts. Knowing this, you can deliberately engineer more opportunities for triggers. Instead of waiting for them to appear by chance, you create conditions that make them inevitable. A simple tactic is alternating intense focus with deliberate release. Work deeply for 45 minutes, then break state with movement or novelty. This oscillation creates fertile ground for the next trigger. You are not relying on chance, you are manufacturing opportunity. There is also a mindset shift required. Most people think of productivity as grinding through hours. The protocol demands that you see productivity as exploiting windows. This mindset is uncomfortable at first because it forces you to stop valuing effort and start valuing leverage. A 10-minute window exploited fully is more valuable than 2 hours of sluggish forcing. But once you internalize this, your relationship with time changes forever. You stop measuring success by hours logged and start measuring by outputs generated. This is why those who master this protocol look like they work less while producing more. They are not fighting time, they are bending it. Let us crystallize this into your final action plan. Step 1. Run a microtrigger log for 3 days. Capture every spark of clarity or curiosity. Step 2. Act instantly on at least one trigger each day. Do not negotiate. Step 3. Expand it with frictionless starts. Reduce the entry point until action feels effortless. Step 4. Chain it into flow by planting small cues for the next trigger. Step 5. Protect recovery and install resets. Controlled breathing, micro-movements, or brief walks keep your system primed. Step 6. Filter false triggers and cut distractions that hijack dopamine. Step 7. Install automation through ritual anchoring so that detection and action become second nature. Step 8. Stack across domains and engineer state shifts deliberately. This is the trigger economy protocol. Detect, act, expand, chain, reset, filter, automate, stack, and engineer. That is the complete arsenal. Once you run this code, your day will transform. Instead of dragging yourself through hours of resistance, you will start noticing moments when the universe seems to open a door. Most people walk past those doors. You will step through them over and over, and the compound effect is enormous. 1 year of running this protocol is the equivalent of 5 years of ordinary productivity. That is not exaggeration. It is the math of leverage. Small windows multiplied by consistency equal exponential results. The truth is simple. You cannot buy more time. You cannot negotiate for more hours in a day. But you can learn to catch the hidden triggers that already exist and turn them into weapons. The amateurs let them pass, the elite exploit them, and now you have the same code they use. Your choice is whether you will let today's triggers slip away, or whether you will start training yourself to catch them right now. If you want more protocols like this, systems that reprogram how you think, act, and win, subscribe to Success Code. This channel is building your arsenal of mental codes for success, and the trigger economy protocol is only one piece. The next code could be the one that doubles your output, rewires your stress response, or gives you an edge no one else has. Subscribe now and keep expanding your arsenal.